Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel. Chelsea news, the first of two videos before Chelsea versus Brighton, which has become the El Clasico of Premier League pre-season friendlies. We've got a deal with the Seagulls, who I would say are currently acting more like the Lions on our badge, whilst Chelsea have become Seagulls within the mouth of the Predator. We've got to adjust this, we've got to work on this, we've got to show Brighton exactly who we are. And in today's Chelsea news video, when we talk about Caicedo, we look at De Zerbi's comments about, would love a swap deal, maybe if he tried to offer us Colwill, piss off De Zerbi. Roberto, I've done nothing but praise you, but now you guys are getting a bit too big for your boots, you're getting carried away. You got to remember, you are just Brighton at the Amex Stadium without the credit card on the south coast. So, first things first though, we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with a little plug to the Telegram, where we're giving away Chelsea-Liverpool tickets, two of them worth £2,000, first home game of the season. If you're not following the Telegram, make sure you do. Secondly, we have to talk about Christopher Ravel. He's on gardening leave. If you don't know who Christopher Ravel is, Christopher Ravel was bought in from RB Leipzig, where he was overseeing recruitment, scouting at all different levels, part of the Red Bull group. And he comes in at Chelsea, and people were thinking, well, this is good. When you look at the history of what has been happening when it comes to Red Bull Leipzig, their recruitment has been fantastic. The model of Red Bull has been a success, whether you like the idea of these big brands taking over these clubs and basically making it one massive commercial entity. It's totally irrelevant. He comes in at Chelsea as the new technical director in December. This is where the questions begin to come in. Christopher Ravel joins in December, and by July the next year, so half a season, he's been at Chelsea, and now he's gone. He's no longer part of the club. He's on gardening leave. It's not like, I don't think at this point we know that it has or hasn't been a massive kerfuffle behind the scenes, a big argument between Bowley, Egbali, other members of the board and Ravel. It could just simply be that Chelsea have brought in all of these big footballing brains, and we've decided that maybe there's too many people at the club. Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, they are going to be overseeing everything from a footballing perspective now at Chelsea. Maybe the club have realised quickly that there's too many people involved, or is Christopher Ravel looking at Chelsea, the chaos that some of us believe is happening behind the scenes, or these guys at the top don't know what they're doing? That's the opinion of some, if not many. So maybe Ravel is like, look, I'm used to working at Red Bull Leipzig. That was well organised. These guys knew what they wanted, knew what they're doing, and maybe he's just leaving Chelsea because he doesn't see it going anywhere. And I think at the moment, Chelsea fans are panicking because Christopher Ravel, we thought coming in as the new sporting director, this was going to be the guy to sort everything out, to make sure recruitment was on point, to make sure that Chelsea got their transfer targets done. Winstanley and Stewart are now in charge. And I think it's too soon to be too negative about this. We need to understand what this is all about. At the moment, it's just being touted as part of the overhaul, the rebuild process at a structural level at the club. So until we know more, I'm not going to pass too many judgments, but there are multiple sides that this can be looked at, and fingers crossed it's not because Christopher Ravel looks at the owners and thinks these guys aren't actually taking the club anywhere. We can also see that with only Nicholas Jackson coming through the door on the 1st of July or whatever it was, we've not made any other signings since. So perhaps this is about him being like, look, I'm trying to do my job here. I've told you guys what we need. You aren't going for it. This is only the second window at the club. I'm out because we're not working together. You aren't congruent with me. I can't be congruent with you. And then we don't get the players we need. Could it be this? We will have to wait and see as the dog decides to go Barney. The next piece of news is Mason Burstow is attracting interest to both go on loan or leave on a permanent basis at Chelsea. He's currently working with Pochettino's squad in Philadelphia, which has delayed any move. Mason Burstow, I don't think will be in the Chelsea squad next season. He's not experienced enough to be competitive to get Chelsea to qualify for the Champions League. He's a good young striker. I do wish him all the best, but the reason he is in Philadelphia with Chelsea at the moment, is because we don't have enough strikers. So, with that being said, what is happening with the recruitment? Are we actually going to sign a striker? If we keep selling or loaning out the young strikers at the club, it leaves no space for the club to develop players to come into that first team. So surely this means that Chelsea are buying a striker. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. We now need to talk about Brighton, okay? The club who Chelsea go and raid last summer for Marc Cucurella. We also go in and steal Graham Potter, who at the time was the pride and joy. The proud Brighton fans were like, we have got ourselves a proper football manager here. He goes to Chelsea, looks ever so slightly out of place, proves that he's out of place, gets sacked by Chelsea, and when Graham Potter's appointed by Chelsea, Brighton go into the market for Roberto De Zerbi. De Zerbi comes in, significantly improves Brighton to above anything that Graham Potter had ever done, proving that Chelsea made the wrong appointment, showing that Brighton can be competitive in the Premier League. And amongst all of this, De Zerbi has been brilliant. Brighton's scouting network is clearly something that even the best clubs in Europe can look up at because they don't miss. Brighton sign players and within a season they're 10 times the value of what they bought them for. Moises Caicedo is the first one of those players that Chelsea now want. We wanted Cucurella the year before. Now we want Caicedo because Chelsea are a massive football club. We have 2 Champions Leagues. I have 2 tattoos with the words never forget here because, well, when I look down on that, it remembers me how big Chelsea Football Club are. Brighton, the Seagulls. At the moment, as I said at the start of this video, Chelsea are the Lions. We are currently the Seagulls in the mouth of the Lions. The roles have reversed. Brighton, during this saga for Moises Caicedo, they set their price for the player. They said they value him at £100 million. Declan Rice goes to Arsenal for 105 million. Brighton see Caicedo as a better player than Declan Rice. So with that being said, Brighton, they want 100 million. Chelsea, they offered 70 million for the second bid, rejected. Brighton sticking to their guns. The third bid expected to be around 80 million, but once again, Chelsea haven't submitted it. This is a game of cat and mouse here. Brighton are trying to force Chelsea's hand. De Zerbi, we're about to get into his comments now because De Zerbi is at this point being nothing shy of a little bell piece, for want of a better term, because what he's doing here is what football managers tend to not do, the respectful ones anyway, which is talk about players from other clubs. And in the process of doing so, we are looking silly. Chelsea are looking silly. We are looking the smaller club. Brighton are in all control here because not only is De Zerbi saying that, no, I didn't say to Caicedo, this is actually the quote here, I didn't give my word for anything. At the moment, I haven't received news that Caicedo can leave tomorrow or in the next week. Colwill included in the deal? I would like to play with Colwill and Caicedo together. So obviously Pochettino isn't talking about Caicedo because there's respect there. There is respect and Chelsea know how to deal with interviews. We're a massive club. We know what we're doing. I'm triggered, by the way. It's absolutely fine if you're a Brighton fan thinking, look at this guy. Look at the, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I don't care. I don't care because it is becoming ridiculous now. Chelsea want Caicedo, £80 million. Caicedo thinks this is fair. 70 million. He thought it was fair. He wants to go to Chelsea. What Brighton are doing here is they're trying to force Chelsea's hand. They know that the player wants to leave. De Zerbi knows the player wants to leave. He also knows that Levi Colwill, yeah, maybe he does fancy Brighton. Maybe he does fancy Europa League football, guaranteed starting place under De Zerbi, but he's contracted to Chelsea, and I think he's going to be happy here, and I think he stays. And I think, realistically, Brighton know, De Zerbi know, that Caicedo and Colwill playing together in the same team is significantly more likely at this point at Chelsea than it is at Brighton. My issue with this is the way that Brighton are moving here, the way that De Zerbi is moving, talking about Levi Colwill as a Chelsea player, but trying to basically coerce him into this move to Brighton, to make it out like, well, yeah, you really wanted here, Levi. We really want you. We want Caicedo to stay as well. The way I see this going, the longer it goes on, Brighton might just accept, right, we're going to lose him. The player doesn't want to go. Caicedo, at this point, absolutely has to hand in a transfer request. If he hands in a transfer request, then I think Chelsea can just stick. And at this point, the fact that we're so slow when it comes to submitting bids is because the more we hear from the Caicedo camp, the more it seems that he's desperate for the move to Chelsea. So Caicedo's agent needs to force hand now. Caicedo's agent, if he's desperate for this Chelsea move, hand in a transfer request to Brighton, because then when Chelsea do officially submit this third bid, and it isn't the 100 million that Brighton have asked for, Brighton, they have to do something here. When it gets to a point where the player has verbalised publicly that he no longer wants to be a Brighton player, he wants to join Chelsea, I think they've got no other choice but to sell. And I think in the meantime, as we've said earlier, Brighton scouting network, fantastic. A lot of football clubs can learn from the way they've done business. Brighton are probably trying to line up that replacement. Probably isn't exactly ready to pounce right now, with the Premier League season just a couple of weeks away. They want to ensure that when Caicedo does leave, that replacement is already placed in De Zerbi's team, because they don't want to... I understand it, and I do respect Brighton a lot for the way that they've developed, the way they play football, but the way that they're moving now with this deal, it's becoming personal. I'm agitated as a Chelsea fan because I see just how important Caicedo is for Chelsea. I think Pochettino knows it too, but we're not moving the same way in interviews as Roberto De Zerbi is. There was supposedly a gentleman's agreement, which, by the way, if you don't know or you haven't decided yet, these gentlemen's agreements in football mean absolute tosh. They're pointless. If a journalist talks about gentlemen's agreements, basically what he's saying is nothing. Don't read it. Don't even waste your energy. A gentleman's agreement means nothing. We're talking about tens, if not hundreds of millions in these deals. And you think someone's saying like, yeah, it's all right, mate, you could go. There's multiple trees that have been cut down for multiple pieces of paper, for multiple scribbles that need to be done in order for these things to happen. And I think at this point, we're at a stumbling block with Caicedo. Do Chelsea just throw the money down? But we're talking about a gap here of 20 odd million quid, which is no joke. We have to remember the club's finances. As much as we want Caicedo, as much as we want to say we're not serious, 20 million is massive in football in financial context. So Chelsea need to keep tabs on this one as closely as we can. And I think right now, if Caicedo really wants that move, hand in the transfer request, and then Brighton are forced to reevaluate how stingy they're going to be. Respect that they got their value and they want it. I totally get it. But at this point, stop moving like you're the one with 2 European titles. Like you're the club that everyone is desperate to go to over Chelsea Football Club. You're not. I firmly believe that. But anyway, Chelsea news is over. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new. Preview for this game is coming soon. So stay tuned and see what I think is the best 11 for Poch to know more about his squad for this game. Come on, you Blues.